Hello. All right. So I guess my face on the screen, that means it's my turn. Hi, everybody. So my name is Michael No. I'm originally from the US. I'm from California. I've moved to Southeast Asia since 2007. So I've been splitting my time between Vietnam and Singapore. So I've done about 10 years in Vietnam and about 6 years in Singapore. So where I work, so this wasn't on purpose. I put this background because I was going to blur out my background, but my house is quite messy. So this screen serves a much better purpose. As you can see, so I'm the country manager of ELSA Speak Vietnam. And so what ELSA Speak is, it's an AI technology that helps English learners with their pronunciation. So what technology is able to do is to detect down to the phenome level pronunciation errors and provide ways to correct it. And probably starting next year as well, I'll be taking more of a general manager role, taking on more countries, namely Thailand, Cambodia, and a few others. So that's my background. Now let's see. Let's go back to the questions. So I guess before we start to feed the questions is why I decided to do an MBA and why specifically UCLA and NUS. Prior to my work at ELSA, I was handling marketing for a US-based company for Southeast Asia. And prior to that, I co-founded a startup in Vietnam that was in the e-commerce and logistics space. Especially during the time that I was I co-founded a startup, I felt that, it's one of these times where you're learning as you go. So you're learning how to write a pitch deck, how to pitch to investors, how to write business plan. And as we were going through it, I kind of had this sense of kind of imposter syndrome. Like, is this the first time you're doing it? I'm sitting there with Google. I don't know if it's right or wrong. So I always felt like I lacked that kind of foundational foundation to build off of. And so because of that, when I had the chance and opportunity to take up an MBA, I really wanted to do that. Just so obviously I wanted to learn, but another part of it too is I wanted to be more self-assured that what I'm doing is correct, and to give myself that confidence to go through as well. Now, why specifically UCLA and US is obviously based on my background from California. So UCLA was a really popular school for us in undergrad. I ended up going to UC San Diego, so I had a foot obviously in California, in the US. I spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia, specifically Singapore. And then this was the best way I felt that could bridge both parts of my life together. And so that's why I chose UCLA and US. Now, describe the overall experience. So it's similar to what Dennis said. The overall experience was great. I came into it thinking, I might have slacked off more than I should have in undergrad. And now that I'm older and more mature, I can, appreciate the education. And as you go through these classes, that's very much the case. But then it's also very much the case that you spend a lot more time learning from everybody around you than actually in class itself. I mean, no disrespect to the professors and whatnot, but working side by side and in groups and with everyone around you, especially when you work in industry. So my previous industry before technology was advertising. So these are the two industries I have most experience with and colleagues in. But when you're working with alongside people in finance or management consultants, the way they look at problems and the way they look at assignments is completely different. And that's an experience I wouldn't be able to do outside of an MBA program. And what it's like balancing. So similar to Dennis as well, my first child, when I first started, was about 2 years old. And after I graduated, my wife gave birth to our second child. So it was also very trying and challenging to go through this as well. But as Dennis also said, it's very important to get the buy-in and support from family and friends who definitely need to be there to help while you're gone and for those 2 weeks in class and dedicated to what you're doing. So let's see, so it's like, and also full-time job, yeah. So besides friends and family, obviously your bosses have to be very supportive of this as well. So it's very important to get their buy-in, because those 2 weeks, in the first few segments, you really think that you can handle doing work, answering emails while you're listening, while you're doing coursework. And the reality is it's just not possible. So it's best to make sure you sync and get the buy-in from your superiors, so that you can get that time off and focus purely on the course. And how I've been able to apply what I learned from the program. So a lot of this has to do with finance. I feel like I'm copying a lot of what Dennis said, but you know, a lot of the finance courses, accounting, corporate finance, this is a lot of stuff that I didn't have exposure to in my career. So now that through this program, what I'm able to do now is sit very confidently with our CFO and go over our forecasts, our P&L for the next years, and everything like that. So all in all, it was a great experience. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat, especially offline, because I think that's when you get the most value out of the program and out of your classmates.